'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause we care for you. You're there for me too, my friend. I know it's hard sometimes when you feel left behind. Tell me what's on your mind. Why do this on your own? Yeah, 'cause I'll be there for.
Welcome to Johnny's Chats. I have Tom from Hearts for Men, founder of Hearts for Men, who we're going to discuss mental health and, mental health in men and how we can see if we can come up with any solutions. Hello, Tom. How you doing?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Very well, thank you. Very well. We'll start off. Would you like to tell us a bit about your own personal journey of how you got to, from your own struggles, and how you got from there to setting up, in the process of setting up a charity?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of all started nearly 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
Nearly 4 or 5 years ago. I just had a long-term relationship that just naturally broke down, just grew apart. We were very young when we got together, and we just grew apart. And I took it. It was 8 years, so I took it really, really tough. Just
Mm-hmm.
completely threw me for a loop, and took to the going out and being the boy and getting drunk, and
As we
got
do.
slowly introduced to different substances, and ended up taking drugs most weekends and binging on alcohol. And it got to the point where I then was drinking every day.
Mm.
Started to affect my work, and started having to go kind of cold turkey most days because I was just having withdrawals from certain things and was smoking through the roof. So I spiraled into this drink and drugs, and eventually it then just became more in the back of my head. I was just very negative, didn't like getting up, didn't like going to work. I lost a job, and yeah, mindset was just awful, and it drove me to this point of just no return. Really, I felt like I was in some rabbit hole and couldn't get out of it. It's just in this downward spiral, blowing wages as quick as I could make them, and eventually it just got to the point where I was just I can't bother anymore. This is it. This is all I'm going to do, and tried to take my life, and luckily didn't work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I kind of bounced back a bit, learned a bit more about where I was going and what was going on, and got a new job. I ended up leaving my job. I was fitting windows and doors at the time, and I left that and went to do some other things and working in warehouses and making signs. I was doing a multitude of different things, and I ended up actually going to work in a bar,
Mm-hmm.
which was quite bizarre because it's probably kind of the worst place for me to go after I'd kind of become
Course. Yeah.
reliant on alcohol every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I was always really shy. I was always really timid and shy. And after this world of drink and drugs come along, I kind of clawed my shell out, and I went to work for a bar in Berkhamsted, and I learned to deal with people. I got to know people, and you couldn't be down. So after I come out of this miserable spiral, I had to be happy. I had to pour a good pint,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to please people all the time, make them happy, and making cocktails, you learn to just become more positive. And I met a lot of people there that I'm still friends with and still see now. I don't see a lot of people I went to school with. We just naturally all went our own separate ways. Well, we all live locally, but the people that I ended up meeting, one of my friends, Andy, he became my best friend. He currently lives in London, running a different pub. And we ended up getting a flat together in Berkhamsted.
Mm-hmm.
I got a job labouring on a building site. I was earning really good money, and I was labouring in the day and working in the evening, keeping myself busy, keeping really, really occupied.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no time to go out and get drunk and just blow all my money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of started becoming more positive and getting better with life. And all of a sudden, I hit this dark path again, where a couple of people kind of come into the pub. I got to know them, became friends with them, and we ended up going on nights out again, getting drunk. We didn't finish at the pub because the last orders at the time was 1 o'clock, which seems horrific now, considering 10 o'clock was the last time I was in a pub, and that was it. So we would finish at 1, go back to my flat, we'd get drunk, we'd do drugs, we'd party until God knows what time. And flatmate was a godsend. He put up with a lot of grief, I'll give him that. And again, I got to that point, and I was sat there we had a friend staying with us at the time, and my friend Maddie, we were sat there having drinks, and I popped into the bedroom and took some drugs, and then took a huge handful of pills, and just ended up drinking a great big magnum of JD. Just didn't tell them. I didn't tell them what I'd done.
Was it sort of like in the moment, or was it something that was like you'd thought of before, had been building up to it, or?
Looking back now, I see it was building up. It was this long road of. It was I'd been there already, and I could see the signs, but I chose to ignore it because I thought, nah, I'm not going to be that guy again that, just acting a bit of a coward and doesn't admit what's going on. And the worst thing was I didn't tell them what was going on, and I didn't talk to my best friend at the time. I didn't tell him, and I didn't tell my family. I didn't turn to anyone. Didn't talk about anything, and I was really, really ill, like horrifyingly ill. And he sat up with me. Well, they both did. They both sat up with me all night, being sick. They didn't know. They didn't know that I was actually in this. Well, what happened? I don't know. I just remember waking up the next day and having what I can only describe as being hit in the head with a shovel several times. It was horrific. But he never had a go at me, never got angry at me. I come home from work the next day, stupidly again, I got up, drove to work, and I was working for my cousin. They were renovating their house, put an extension on it, and they even said to me that day, they were, "Are you all right? You're not with it. You're not there. What's happened?" And I won't go into too much detail, but they had their own things go on. So they weren't in the best of places anyway. And even then, they were asking me, "Are you all right? What's happened? You look awful. You're not you. You're not." And I was like, "No, I'm fine." I called in sick to the bar that night. I went home. I sat down with Andy and just said, I genuinely sat down and tried to kill myself last night. And what drove me to talk to him and tell him, I don't know, because I was at work. I was on a building site as well, so there was only 4 of us there. But again, I was on this manly trade of building, and I just went home, and all of a sudden, I just let go of the fear of not talking, and I felt safe in my home, felt safe with my best friend, and I just spoke to him and told him everything. And not only was he extremely gutted that he had kind of passed it off to me being all party boy, like he was more upset that I felt I couldn't talk to him. Like, he was just like, I'm here. Like, you can talk to me. And I did. And I opened up and I told him everything. And from then on, I became this open book because anyone wanted to ask me about it, I would get on with it. I would talk, I would tell people. And I then started looking into my own kind of therapy because I tried the therapy before and I did it for nearly 2 years. And I got quite wrapped up in the negative process of going back to talk about the past and wrapped up in what had happened and why I was where I was. And before I even walked through the door, I was down in the dumps. I was miserable and I was negative because I was thinking about this relative passing away, or I'd lost an animal had passed away, and is that the root of my problem? And I had a therapist. Actually, I have 2 siblings. My brother's 4 years younger than me, and I have a younger sister who is actually 18 years younger than me. She was a bit of a surprise, I won't lie. But so I have these 2 siblings, and the therapist actually tried to ask me if it was because I was jealous of my siblings, and tried to kind of pin it on the fact that my depression started when my sister was born. And I then became even more withdrawn from my family, because I was thinking, well, maybe it's my family, like maybe they don't love me as much. And therapy just didn't cut it for me. It's a high rate of people that go to therapy. And
Yeah. And it does help a lot of people, you know, but it's not for everyone. That's what I mean. There's a lot of different types of therapy out there, you know. Like there's some mainstream. There's others that are like been old traditions, or other types of therapies that are coming in and being introduced. There's a lot of different types, and just because one doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you should knock it for like you should not
not
keep
at all.
trying, you know.
Just because it didn't work for me doesn't. And I only tried one. I only tried one therapist who just sat me down, figured me out. The first session we sat for an hour and a half, and she just tried to figure me out. And do you know, I couldn't say a bad word about her.
Of course, yeah.
She was fantastic. And I know people that have gone to therapy and still going through therapy and find it really positive, and it really works. So like there's I think I read a statistic of 82% of people that go to therapy, it works, and it helps them move on with life and get better. Unfortunately, I'm just one of the other percentage it didn't go for.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So when I went through this second phase of coming out of another brush with suicide, and I was spiraling into depression again, I did the opposite. I thought, I'm not going to go to therapy. I know what has triggered this. It's the drink and the drugs. So I stopped drinking. I stopped taking drugs. I stopped smoking. Completely cut everything out. Anyone that was negative, I stopped seeing them. And when I mean negative, anyone going out drinking all the time, anyone who likes going out and getting on it at the weekend, just cut it out. Just cut them out of my life completely, and just knuckled down to work, save money. And I ended up, the building work dried up, so I moved out of the flat, and I decided to move back home. In amongst all that, I had ended up becoming starting a relationship with a close friend. We got together, and I'd liked her for a while, but we got together, and that really helped impose this huge positive outlook on everything. We ended up booking a trip. Well, I booked a trip to Thailand anyway. I booked a one-way ticket to see my cousin in Thailand, and I was going to stay out there and kind of up and start this new phase. And it ended up becoming a trip with a friend, and then we got together, and we then went away together for 2 months. Well, I went for 2 months in the end, traveling around Thailand. So all of a sudden, I had this outlook of be positive. Look for the positives in life. Don't think about the past, because it's happened. It's done. I can't control something and change anything that's done. And I looked into different things I looked into doing a yoga camp, just because it like being peaceful and at mind with what's going on around you and controlling the outcome, if you like. So I looked into all these different things, and as I was looking into it, I just realized the best advice I ever gave to myself was, you can always look behind you, but you're already going to see what you've seen. So, but when you turn a corner and you're looking somewhere different that's ahead of you, everything's new, everything's fresh. So you can change that. You can always change what your outcome is and how you're going to react to things. So the main thing for me is, don't think about what's behind me, because I've been in these places, and I look at people that struggle now, and I always say to them, what do you focus on? What's your focus? And they always say, I'm trying not to be friends with Tom, because he likes going out and getting on drugs and drinking. I'm like, right, okay, so don't be friends with him. Cut him out. You know, it's hard. It's horrible to try and cut someone out of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be militant with it, you know.
Yeah, the only person that is ever going to really look after you is you, because you know yourself the best. You know how you're going to react to situations, and you know how you're going to proceed with different experiences in life. So control that, control all the little variables, and try to focus on the future.
Of course.
And
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
used my newfound relationship, and I found Thailand incredible, and we ended up moving in together in February. COVID come along and locked us down, and fortunately enough, I was locked down in a nice, spacious, nice old country pub. So we had a nice open fire. I was locked down with my girlfriend's family. We got the dog here. So I actually had a really nice summer of helping renovate the pub, sitting in front of the fire in the cold evenings, watching TV. And it really has now brought me to where I am now,
Hmm.
because I have this incredibly positive outlook. I'm still, if I'm going to drink, I drink in absolute moderation. I don't smoke anymore.
Yeah.
There's no anyone that goes near drugs around me is just completely out of my radius. I've just got myself a new job. I say I got myself a job. One of my close friends got me involved in. I'm going to go to work on movie sets and TV shows. Been trying to get into that since I was left school. So 2020 for me began really, really crap, to be honest. I was coming out of this come down, if you like, of being away in Thailand, and I'm in this new relationship, and I had this massive high, and come into 2020 thinking I'm going to do something different this year. I'm going to really push it. And I don't think without coronavirus and being locked down, this would all be happening. I don't think Hearts for Men would even exist, because
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I sat there and I thought about how I struggled, and I don't like being told stay in and do this and do that and clean your hands. You should be cleaning your hands anyway. But
Yeah.
for someone to actually say to you, right, clean your hands, wear a mask, do that, and it's daunting. And but without all of that, and speaking to friends who were struggling, and I wouldn't want to create this safe space to support as many people as I can. I mean, yeah, it's aimed at men. It's called Hearts for Men for the reason being I'm a man. I understand people looking at blokes thinking you need to be masculine, you need to bring the bread home. You got to be manly, and you can't cry. Be
Mm-mm.
strong. So, but there's no one I wouldn't try to help, because I've seen drinking, I've seen drugs, I've tried to take my life. I've done all these different things, and I've experienced it. And the awful thing is, and had a lot of people say to me, the best people to help drug addicts and alcoholics are people that have been a drug addict or an alcoholic.
Of course, you've got the experience and come out the other end.
So I can't say that I'm gonna save lives and impact on different people, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. The idea is just to try and at least raise some awareness for guys,
Yeah,
create a safe space, and
yeah.
like do what I'm just try and do what I'm doing. I've had one person now come forward and publicly tell the world their story. Who he was already a friend to me. He works in the pub that I live in,
Yeah.
for my girlfriend's dad. But 4 or 5 people knew about his battle, and he tried to take his own life, and 5 people, let's say, knew about that. And he then turned to me and said, let's sit down, let's write my story. I want everyone to know. So already I've got 2 stories out there of two guys that, I wouldn't say I'm unpopular, but I've got a lot of friends. I say friends, acquaintances that I know that you say hello to in the street that wouldn't look at me and think, Tom's depressed. Tom's trying to kill himself. He's been addicted to drink and drugs, and it was the same with Steve. He didn't suffer with drinking drugs and everything, but he really suffered with depression and went through all this experience, and now he talks to me when I see him about how he's feeling and what's going on, but he just says the comfort of having somewhere I can turn to is fantastic. And I think that's what a lot of guys that follow the page feel the comfort in, is knowing there's something there. They don't have to talk to it. They can just read the posts we put out there. I try to vary what we're talking about as much as we can.
Of course, yeah.
Because there's so many different statistics to do with men. So many. There's 3 out of 4 suicides that happen are men.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's a huge number of blokes out there that don't feel comfortable to talk. So if they have a safe space to go to, maybe they will.
Exactly. Why do you think that is?
I honestly think it's just because of the stigma of being a man.
Yeah.
The stigma of being big and brave and burly and muscly, and I think there's this huge image at the moment of, at the moment the gyms are on focus in the news. The gyms are this huge thing. So again, on social media, it's gyms, rejoin for this much and join for that. Not that I'm knocking that. I go to a gym. I go as much as I can. But again, that just promotes should I be going to the gym? Should I look like these guys on Instagram? And I think health is a huge thing these days. Working on a building site at the moment with everything that's going on, 9 out of 10 builders aren't shredded. They're not ripped and lugging around pretending to be Instagram models. They're blokes. They want to sit down and go home, have a pint, have a fag, sit in the garden, watch TV, have some dinner and chill.
Yeah.
And there's all of a sudden there's this whole, does that mean to be a man you've got to be in shape and muscly? And that's a huge thing at the moment. Everyone that, I would say everyone, a lot of people that have messaged the page have said they're feeling the pressure of being out of shape. They're feeling overweight. They're feeling like they're under this pressure of needing to be in shape. So that's just a whole nother factor to this being manly.
Yeah.
And when you Google what's the definition of masculinity, the example given is handsome, muscled, and driven. But what, in my personal opinion, is why should that be an example of being masculine? And
can be measured in many different ways.
Exactly. You can. To me, I think it's incredibly masculine and manly to actually hold your hand up and just say, I struggle. I have a tough time. I think that the biggest men out there are the ones that are honest with themselves and others.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy to do, and I'm not saying that because I'm biased and I'm trying to start a charity and everything. I'm saying that because my girlfriend's dad even said to me, he's kindly said that I can use the pub in the new year for events once we know what we're doing in the new year. And he said, but he just looked at me and said, the horrifying thing is I could fill that pub with people I know that need this.
Yeah.
And it really took him back, as if to say, God, like, I know that many people that might need this. So, and I think he's 50 now. So that's 50-year-old guys. I've got a higher statistic of people that follow the charity that are 17, 18, 19, as young as 16. People that are going to school still that are feeling that they've got mental health issues. So this whole big dome of reasons of being a man, being the breadwinner and being masculine is this huge pressure of why guys can't actually cry if they want to.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, with what you were saying about being the breadwinner and that, well, that was obviously like how it used to be, sort of thing. And I don't know. I want to see ask your opinion on what you think of this. Is that one of the problems is that one of the problems could be seen to be that role of being the breadwinner isn't so much there anymore. Do you see what I mean? It's like it was like you'd be able to go to work and provide for your family with a wage. It was just normal to be able to do it. But now the struggles with everything like rising prices all the time and wages not really going up. Even if a man is trying to provide for his family, he still hasn't got that sort of like he can't really do it as well sort of thing. You know, like the average person sort of thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like the average starting wage now is, I think it's 18,000, I think,
Yeah.
for everyone. Like that's just an average figure. So that's so huge considering house prices and stuff. Like my mum and dad bought their first house, I believe. They're not here to ask, but they brought their first house for something like 80,000, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I look now and they said when I talk to them about buying a house and they're like, oh, how much is this kind of house? And I'm like, oh, that's like 480 grand. They're like,
Mm.
what? So the rise in inflation and taxes and everything, you need two incomes now. So you can't, and I think a lot of households now as well, women actually have so much more drive than guys. There's a
Yeah.
massive statistic about women's drive. They're so much more driven career wise because eventually they know they've got to take potentially a year and a half off to have children.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So women want to get as far ahead as they can so that when they take time off, they're getting good maternity pay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
think it's only the last couple of years that paternal pay has come round and paternity leave.
Yeah.
So even until a few years ago, men still had to go to work. And the two incomes, I think me and Lucy were talking about houses and rent and stuff the other day, and it's to go and buy a house, you have to have been in a stable job to get a mortgage, both of you, barely any debts and no student fees and student debt doesn't come into play. That just is what it is.
Mm.
But to actually go and buy a house now, you have to have two incomes, and it's another pressure added to being a bloke that you have to rely on someone else.
Yeah.
You can't just have one income,
Mm-mm.
and whether you've got to rely on a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you've got to rely on someone else. So you can't just go to work and come home and pay the bills and pay the mortgage and put food on the table.
Yeah.
You have to make
Yeah.
sure everything else is looked after, and it could be that one of you pays the rent and one pays the bills, and one loses their job, then all of a sudden there's more pressure.
Yeah.
Redundancies are unfortunately at an all-time high in the last couple of years as well. So again, there's just this massive pressure, and the idea of being the breadwinner now, I think not only is it a long time ago where men were seen as the breadwinners because women, rightly so, are now climbing the ladders in roles at work, and
Mm-hmm.
it's evened out. And I was actually reading a newspaper article the other day because apparently newspapers are still out there. I was actually found one and read one the other day, and there was a guy in there who had wrote into, I believe it was like Mystic Meg or something, writing in about his problems.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been made redundant, and his wife actually earned more money than him anyway. And they decided that he was just going to stay at home. He was going
Mm-hmm.
to be like the stay at home. They got two young children at primary school. One, I believe, one was 6 and one was 11 or something, about to leave to go to secondary school. So a lot of his day, he's at home cleaning, preparing the dinner. And he wrote in saying, "It's making me feel like a woman,"
Mm.
which is just wrong. Personally, you shouldn't. This guy had this image in his head that's woman's role to be at home,
Yeah.
and now he's facing that pressure of being at home, and everyone looks at him saying, "Oh, you're the woman." So
Mm.
again, there's another factor, and why can't men stay at home? Why can't men do that? If your wife or your girlfriend has got the better job, that you can afford for you to do that. There shouldn't be another pressure of men can't be at home. That's
Yeah.
a woman's thing, and men have to be the breadwinners. That's unfortunately it was that way in the past, but it has changed, and these pressures are still there. That they're still amounting, which is really unfortunate in my opinion.
Yeah. Times are definitely changing.
100%. They couldn't be further from the 20s and the 30s. Let's go
Yeah.
with where everything was so set in stone. It was kind of like you were living in a ruled land, really. Everything
Yeah.
was rules and regulations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So it's more like it's almost like we've got more freedom now, but we don't know what to do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can access everything from your phone and sit in bed and turn your lights off and everything now. So
Yeah.
times are way past what they were 70, 80 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. And so right, next thing. Tell us about Hearts for Men then.
So Hearts for Men started actually as Thoughts for Fellas. I originally wanted to start just literally like an Instagram, Facebook page to answer guys' questions. The main idea was for guys to just ask questions to the page.
Yeah.
What do you think about this, and how do you feel about this, and all those kind of things. So it wasn't actually going to provide any form of support or advice or any kind of resources. And then friend Alex got involved. He's got a pub now. He's got an events company. Currently got a bottled cocktail company. I spoke to him for some kind of business advice, if you like. So I'm thinking about doing this thing. Well, I want to create a space for blokes to get their questions answered.
Mm.
And he said, well, why don't you just do something where you post information and people can still talk to you? Like, create something. And it spiraled into what is now Hearts for Men, because we're in Hertfordshire. I live in Berkhamsted and always have lived in Hertfordshire, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
And going through when we were talking to each other about our battles with mental health, we came to the same conclusion of if one of us needed to talk, where would we go? Where would we turn to?
Yeah.
And neither of us actually had an idea of where we would go, who we would turn to. So it then turned into, well, could we be a charity that eventually could become a coffee shop, let's say, where you can go and sit down. The idea being potentially next year, probably going ahead a couple of years, we'd have this space where you could go and get a coffee, and you would meet. The rule of the fun would be you'd kind of go and build a buddy, where
Yeah.
you'd go in, you'd sit on a beanbag with your coffee, and the tables would be made out of board games. So you'd sit and play chess with someone, whether you know how to play chess or not.
Yeah.
And you could read a magazine, or you could swap books and play on a football table or a pool table. You go and you feel safe, you feel comfortable. And the reason being, I want Hearts for Men to become a safe space for guys to always turn to.
Yeah.
Just even if they don't want advice. Like at the moment, I'm not a counsellor. I'm not a therapist. I don't want to be giving people advice about what to do and how to do things, because that, in sense, I'm kind of not controlling them, but I'm giving some kind of control as to how they're going to move forward. So for now, I'll give them advice about what helped me. It
Yeah.
might not help. Like I had someone talk to the page about panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was suffering with my panic attacks, I would carry around a little notepad, like a little diary and a pen. So it all comes in one, you get them anywhere. And I would have a word of the day.
Yeah.
The idea actually came from a word of the day toilet paper I got for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
as a Secret Santa present. So I came up with this idea that I carry this notepad around, and if I was going to have a panic attack, I'd get this notepad out, and my word of the day, I would write it over and over again, literally, until my main focus became this word.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I noticed my breathing was getting better, and I'd stop sweating. I'd stop looking around and worrying about who's staring at me, and it would ease. So then, instead of it being word of the day, I focused on something that would be positive. So mine just become my mum. My mum's always been a positive person in my life. So I just write my mum's maiden name over and over again, or just her name over and over again. So then I'd start thinking about mum. And then all of a sudden it made you feel safe. And every guy, 9 times out of 10, every guy knows their mum, has a positive family relation. So the idea being, I told this guy, focus on someone in your family. I said, if you don't have good family relations and you don't have a positive family, focus on a pet. Focus on your school or something positive, a hobby, anything.
Something they find happiness in.
Something you find comfort and something that makes you feel safe.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's that whole idea of feeling safe to actually talk. So it evolved from just being kind of a question time, if you like, and getting some answers to helping people realize what kind of therapy they might need, or giving people some suggestions to what might help them, and just giving people general daily motivation as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people that I talk to just struggle to be motivated. So it's the idea of having this comfortable zone that you can turn to. So I now got the website going. I sat and developed a website at the weekend, so people can actually submit questions and their mental health problems to the website, and I get the email, and I have the option of, I'm currently talking to someone who's going to become kind of like a freelance therapist for the charity when it becomes registered in the new year.
Positive stuff.
So I'll have someone that I can actually speak to and get some help and advice, or even pass them on to talk. And she's actually agreed Zoom calls, phone calls, permitting what happens with COVID in the new year. She'll talk to them, go for a walk, little things.
Yeah.
So you're not sat in this dull room being asked questions. You're going for a walk and doing something positive and getting outside and developing a kind of an actual friendship, rather than just sitting in a room with someone examining you. And the idea being, in a couple of years, there will always be somewhere for guys to go, whether they need to sit and talk to someone, or they just want to pick up a leaflet, or they just want to say hello to some random person. And the main goal is to spread awareness, to end this stigma of men can't talk, with the eventual goal of, I don't want to say it's kind of like a club, because it's not going to be something you have a membership to, or you get discounts for, or anything like that. It's just going to be a place to go and sit and talk to someone, talk to a friend.
Yeah.
So we've got lined up for the new year. We've got a helpline I'm currently looking into. Got a couple of people that have said once it's ready, they want to kind of represent it. So in 2021, we're going to do small WhatsApp groups. So when you go to like Alcoholics Anonymous, or drug therapy, you kind of get a buddy that you talk to, someone to turn to if you're struggling. So we want to do these small WhatsApp groups. So they'll be someone like your ambassador or your brand rep, let's say. Probably the wrong wording, but that will just monitor the group. They won't ever interfere, but there'll be 5 guys in there that if you're having a bad day, you can text, and instead of just having one person and putting pressure on one person to always be near their phone, adding more pressure to someone's life, you've got 5 people that, they're always someone's gonna be there, whether it's someone who works nights or someone who works early mornings or someone who's just up at night to go to the toilet and checks their phone.
Yeah.
You've got 5 people there that will to support you, rather than just having one person and adding pressure to someone else. That you've got to be able to pick up that phone, and that's the next phase, is getting people involved that want to be in these WhatsApp groups, and people getting to know what you actually need to look out for. The signs that people are really struggling and hiding how they're feeling.
Yeah. Definitely give them a platform to, like, come together and share their experiences and share their feelings and open up about it. Yeah, really positive stuff, man. That's good. We need more of it. And well, that's it. Well, that's about it all that I wanted to go through with. Really happy to speak to you, Tom, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
Thank you for having me.
Good luck with everything, and we'll be in touch, no doubt, in the future, and we'll see if we can get you on again once you get the next phase in. We can talk more and more about where the business and the charity is going.
Hopefully it's it continues to grow like it's growing, and we can help as many chaps out there as possible.
That's it, man. Absolutely. Well done. All right, sweet, bruv. Well, yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording now.
'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause we care for you. You're there for me too, my friend. I know it's hard sometimes when you feel left behind. Tell me what's on your mind. Why do this on your own? Yeah. 'Cause I'll be there for you, my friend. 'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. Oh yeah, there for